All right, hi everybody once again, and welcome to another Proving Grounds interview here. This time we are talking with Disarray, and so we got a bigger group for this one. Alex, Alan, Nick are all here. How's it going, all three of you?
Good, good. How are you doing?
Doing awesome. And then we got Zaza and Pori here as usual. Both of them will be asking questions if they have any as well. So on top of the
Yeah,
ones that I've
hello.
got. So
What's up, Rain?
uh, not much. Dottie, what about you?
I'm chilling. My dog's chewing very loudly. I don't know if you can hear it.
I can.
Oh, there is
Okay.
Cannot either.
Yeah. Yeah, so for our last interview of the day, we're talking with Disarray, another an interesting robot we got up here. Love the looks and the color scheme of this thing, and we've gotten to see it in Proving Grounds a few times, and then we know of one upcoming another appearance they plan to make in the future. So yeah, this should be exciting. So yeah, for the first one then, basically you guys want to introduce yourselves and tell us a little bit about the design of the robot?
Yeah, so I'm Al, and a little bit about the team and kind of who's joining me today. So we're from the University of Arizona. We're all graduate students in the mechanical engineering department. We have a pretty small team. There's about 5 or 6 of us, so this is kind of mostly it. But yeah, we kind of started the project as our senior design capstone. Typically at the University of Arizona, they like companies will come in and kind of give projects that you kind of select. But we actually proposed this project, raised the money, found a couple advisors, and so this was back in fall of 2022. So we started the project as capstone. So it was really nice. We got to get graded on Battlebots, which was awesome. None of us really had any combat robotics experience, which was definitely kind of the biggest setback. Kind of getting started with everything. So that's kind of why we went with the route of a 4-wheel drive vertical spinner, because it was we were time constrained for getting to matches, and we were time constrained for completing the overall project. Right, we had to get an A. So we kind of chose, 4-wheel spinner, just because that's kind of what we could bite off. We know that it's not the most creative or unique, but that's where we really wanted to emphasize the shape, not really being as boxy as maybe some of the others. But yeah, Nick or Alex, did you guys have anything to add or?
Yeah. So we started at first. It was Al and one of our other members, Matthias, that proposed the idea, and then the rest of us kind of jumped on. But just starting with the team, we had all worked together before on other things like off-road vehicles and such. But this was kind of all out of our like wheelhouse. But the fact that we got it together in a year, it was really stressful. Getting this thing done and getting it working. After seeing some of the other competitors and some of the stuff that they went through getting their bot together, I don't know how we dodged so many bullets, but it came together really well.
Yeah. Another thing that I think we kind of forget about is how much schoolwork we had to do as a part of the senior design class. We didn't just get to design the robot. We had to fill out all these forms and paperwork that the class has set up for these normal projects. But for us, it took so long because we have so many, most of these are just 3-part projects. We have 200 parts. So it was very time consuming in the design process to work through all that. And that kind of put us further behind than we already were.
Does anyone remember how long our final report was? It was close to 100 pages.
It was 100 something. Yeah.
Wow. Jeez.
Damn, that's crazy.
Even as a
I
side
didn't think
thing,
so much.
I happen to be a mechanical engineer myself at Iowa State, and I'm actually taking on the capstone class this spring. So maybe I should see if I could get a combat robot to like Brawl or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can have a rivalry going on. You got an A, right? I would hope. I would give it an A.
Yeah, we squeezed an A. Our mentor actually came out to the fight too.
Cool.
So that was a lot of fun. But if he didn't, we wouldn't have given him a ticket.
Yeah.
There's a good bribery
It
right
was
there.
yeah.
That's incredible that you managed to use BattleBots as like your capstone project.
Yeah, I love that.
That's something I'd definitely do if I got the opportunity and the funds for it.
I know. Yeah, it was great. Well, we had a faculty advisor in the kind of electrical and computer engineering department, Dr. Marslin, and he just loved the idea. So he was kind of all about it, within the first, couple minutes of talking to him about it.
Yeah. And I think something that was really nice is the U of A was trying to start a robotics program, or they had started a master's program for it. So this kind of complemented everything they wanted to do. A good like combining of the timing of everything.
I imagine this would be really good for getting people in the door for that when they can go and watch robots kill each other and go, I want to do that.
Yeah, that's the other big thing. We started a club on campus too for like smaller builds. And actually last year, so we started with this one, and then some of the younger kids built like a 12-pound. And they were all freshmen that didn't really know anything. It's amazing how competitive those like smaller weight classes are. I mean, they just got absolutely torn up. I think I'm not sure his name, but the Claw Viper captain was there, and he just, oh man, just the competition level. So we all stepped down to 3 pounds. So that's kind of what we're working. We have like 7 or 8 in the works right now. So we kind of serve as mentors or however you want to call it, but that's been a big part of the kind of journey so far too. It's helping the younger guys.
That's pretty
Absolutely. That's awesome stuff. So you've already mentioned what kind of makes the robot unique, mentioning some of the small features amongst it. So I'll just go to my next question then. Could you kind of share a recap of the matches with Terra Dominator, Taco Tuesday, and Jackpot, and if there were any issues you uncovered that you look to improve upon and work through for an upcoming Proving Grounds match? What were those, and how did you address them? So kind of a two-parter. This is my favorite question of every interview we've done so far, too, FYI.
Yeah, it's definitely been a little bit crazy to this point. We thought that, we weren't sure when the tournament was going to fall, right? So back in, December 2022, we're applying, to World Championship 8 the next season. And so it's kind of, we were in this position where it was like, do we sign up for this, new Destructathon thing? Like, what is this? Or, do we kind of, wait it out a little bit to order the whole thing, for the tournament? So we, ended up signing up for the match because we needed to build the robot anyways for senior design. And, it was Terra Dominator. So we went out there, and it was senior design day. There's a big day where all the capstone teams will, go out, present their presentations to the public. And I think it was like 3 or 4 days after that.
Yeah,
we had
that weekend.
Yeah, it was that weekend. We had to, get all this stuff and kind of pack it out to Las Vegas. And at Capstone, it was actually, the whole robot was gray. We snapped a wing off when we were like moving it around. We had never tested the weapon.
We had driven it around in some places, and also like we even showed it off a little bit to the public. But even then, we were running into some bugs that we had to solve before the fight. So even then, it was down to the wire.
And I think it took us about 30 minutes to turn it on when we were trying to show it off at design day, because some wiring issue. Just like 3 days before we have to go fight it, we can't even figure out how to turn it on.
That was one of the biggest things with the first fight. We had individual battery packs. I don't know. Do we have 8? And they were put in with like duct tape and some connectors. And even in our first test drive in the box, they disconnected. Some of the batteries disconnected. And so we added more duct tape and
and Rob, the general safety guy. I mean, he's just not happy. getting all those batteries out. The robot's smoking on fire, and he's trying to pull all those out.
Our one of our ESCs on our weapon started to catch fire. Like, I don't know how soon it was till our first.
It had to have been like maybe 2 hours before. I don't think we got back into the box before the fight.
I've never seen someone's hand shake so much, because Rob had to go in there, pull out these lipos, and his hand was moving like 3 inches, and I was so scared for him. I was like, dude, I'm so sorry. That was one of the first things we ended up changing.
Yeah, it was crazy. So the Terra Dominator it was our first time, kind of at BattleBots. A few of us had been out to the, filming sessions, but, first time back in the pits, talking to the guys. And so there were just so many nerves, and, we hadn't done combat, so it was just it was crazy. It was kind of a crazy experience.
We'd barely driven the bot. Like, I'm always like, I love driving things. And I was very happy when everyone said, yeah, Nick, you can drive. I was like, yes, let's go. And then you get up there, and I usually don't have many nerves. I usually like disassociate right before the fight, but we got up there and my legs were shaking. Like, in cartoons, they usually do the thing, and I'm like, oh, that's dumb. That was happening. Oh my gosh.
But fortunately, looking back on it, I think that if we, nothing, no offense to, Terra Dominator or anything, that he made, but it was definitely a good fight for us to kind of prove out the concept a little bit. I know the robot, it only weighed, 150 pounds or something. The outside was aluminum. And, I think looking back on it, if we had taken on, somebody like Orbitron or Jackpot, I think that our hopes would have been crushed a little bit, because there's no way we would have redesigned the robot, and we probably wouldn't have looked too well in front of any of the people on the selection committee, and it would have been a weird thing where it's like, oh my gosh, the robot's really bad, like, what do we do now? We just spent all this time. So we are really fortunate. We did have a couple problems, but given the timeline, that was definitely the best person we could have fought, just for team morale. But anyway, so the next fight, we signed up for Taco. Oh, sorry, I don't think you're coming through. I see you talking, but
you guys said you were only weighed like 150 pounds for that match.
No, that was Terra Dominator. We were at
okay, that was Terra Dominator. Okay.
Yeah, Terra Dominator was very underweight from what I've heard.
Yeah.
Sorry, I misheard.
Explain how high they got sent in the one fight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was
but yeah, so we signed up for like Taco. I can't pretty soon after, maybe a week or two. And we didn't change too much. It was relatively close together. It was, give or take a month or two, and a lot of people were splitting off to internships and stuff. But the biggest thing we changed was probably the batteries. We switched to max amps, just packing it for us rather than like trying to assemble them. But that was probably the biggest. I don't remember if we really added. We made a design.
Weight.
Yeah, so we made a design for a self-rider in that time. Got that all ready to go. So this picture that we're looking at here is from the Taco fight.
And with the spacing, we just kind of had to throw it on the back and put the tail up there. But
yeah, so those were the biggest changes. So self-rider, new batteries. We're feeling okay. But we really couldn't get over the hump of our drive motors. We burnt out like probably in total what we burnt out maybe like 3 or 4 motors.
So we were using brush drive because we thought they were more durable, and then we ran through a lot of them.
Yeah, it might have had something to do with the speed controllers. We were warned a little bit about using them. The RoboClaw. I don't know if they had, not a great, current limiter or something on it, letting it over current, but we kept blowing up these drive motors. So, we order 3 of them before the taco fight. We burn out 2, and I think in both taco matches, maybe just one, we were only running with front drive.
The first one we only had front drive, and the second one we were. That was the first time we had like full and working drive the entire time. The second fight, but the second fight did not go as planned.
Oh yeah, so because we were scrambling so much on the wheels, for the drive, we had a fire before the first taco fight. We've had a lot of fires. Yeah, like 3 or 4 fires. It all kind of blends together a little bit, but we were working so hard on getting the drive together that we didn't have enough time for the self-rider. So we had everything there, and Nick actually ran down to the store and got a speed controller for the self-rider.
And both sides of Vegas to try to find one.
Yeah, they got to put a store, right next to the Battlebots. But we couldn't get the self-rider going. It was on, the tail was on, but the gearbox wasn't hooked up. And to be completely honest, it wouldn't have worked anyways if it was hooked up. But we get hit. Our weapon was down. We drive into them. We get hit. We get flipped.
Yeah.
So unfortunate.
Looking back at the video, like as driving it, like we had lower tip speed at that time. I think what I was going through my brain was trying to slow them down before they got to max speed, but that instantly flipped us. It was a heat of the moment wrong decision. But
Taco had a pretty good overall design. They had a couple of 8057 new motors and a pretty solid weapon. So it was kind of a unique design, but we did get hit pretty squarely, and that's definitely the hardest we've probably gotten hit at that point.
Driving home after that match was terrible. On
the way home, we were all a little bit cranky. Kind of a win, we thought we should have had. We thought we were going to be leaving there 4-0, but on the way home, I texted Jeff from Jackpot. Actually, I texted in the Discord, and then Jeff was one of the first ones to respond. And we scheduled a match kind of on the way home, which was exciting. Preparing for the Jackpot fight, it was mostly just trying to fix the drive issues and actually get the self-rider working.
Yeah.
We put a lot of work in the self-rider, just finding the right gear ratio in the gearbox, and then also figuring out a way to mount it in there, because the space we had, it didn't fit a higher torque gearbox. So just trying to work around that a little bit. But we get to the Jackpot fight, we're feeling good, and then we look over at.
I would say one important thing to note is we show up to Vegas and it's still not fully working. Because it's off to the side, off center, we're flipping on our side. It has enough power, but it just flips us sideways and then it doesn't get all the way up. So they had to weld just a bar across the side for us on there so that it would actually flip us. So the first time we flipped over was the morning of our fight, I believe.
Yeah, and again, we only had 2 drives. I'm pretty sure we caught fire at some point.
Yeah, one of our weapon drives, and we had to take the nice thing is we got really good at taking it apart, like all the way down to the bones and then all the way back up.
That's always good practice in case if you end up having some sort of situation like Retrograde had during the season they were in, because I remember they talked about how the fight with Huge got delayed to where they only had a couple hours to repair the robot for Defender, and that's certainly a good skill to have.
Yeah, it's a big part of the sport for sure. But yeah, so going into the Jackpot fight, down 2 drives, just get the self-rider working. Had a fire before, and Jeff's sitting over there, greasing up the belts and stuff, and it's like, gosh dang it, oh my gosh, what have we gotten ourselves into? And I mean, he's got the Heartbreaker disc on, his biggest weapon.
Just talking through the strategy, even just going into this, I'm like, okay guys, where do we want to get like hit. Like the wheels are exposed, the side will throw us, the rear is where we're gonna get destroyed from. We got belts in the center of our weapon, and they're like, just use like the front plates, the little eye plates. I'm like, that's like 5% of our bot. But
Yeah.
it was wild going into that. That one was the first one where it was like, okay, let's underdog this.
Yeah, and we had seen like Jackpot got into the box and he fired out the weapon, and it was just like, oh my gosh, it was terrifying. Such a like ours makes some noise, and it doesn't really draw a crowd, of people standing around, but it gets into the box. And everybody kind of starts making their way out of the pits, like, oh my god, what is that? Is that like an airplane taking off? And it was just so terrifying. He's full bore, he's ready to go, and so we go in there, and it was quick. I'm sure you've seen the video footage, but first fight we get smacked a few times. We took like a couple like little exchanges, lost all our belts, and then we got hit on the side really, really bad, and it actually cut through our entire armor, bent everything, ripped out a bunch of bolts. Pretty sure we caught on fire again.
Yeah, I think Alex has it.
I actually happen to have it in my room. I got this stupid blurring on, but this is supposed to be one plate, and it's just AR 500 in half. It's awful.
It was definitely an armor. This was the biggest armor test we had.
Wow.
Anyways.
Yeah. So that was that was pretty bad. Feeling it was kind of like, okay, we can get it back together, throw some new wheels on.
It was kind of relieving though, because it's like, okay, if like the bar is a little bit lower now, like the first time it was like, okay, we're gonna underdog, we're gonna try our best. The next time it's like, okay, let's just get this thing together. Let's just get out there. Less stressful to get everything perfect and more getting it together.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so with a few patchy fixes, we actually had to go like 5 pounds overweight because we actually had to put a bigger weapon on. We call it chunker. But Jeff was okay with that, fortunately, or else we wouldn't have had anything. It would have been defense because it actually had that center pulley. So it's a 7075 aluminum pulley, and it was so mangled. I think we haven't taken it apart yet, taken the weapon plates off of it. But I think if you take the weapon plates on it, I think it would split like in half and just fall apart. Like it got so hit. So we had to put on a new one, and then we actually had to duct tape over the little patch of armor, spray painted over it, stickered over it. It looked okay, but it was just air gapped right there. And again, running 2-wheel drive, and going into the fight, knowing that it was probably going to end similarly.
Yeah,
we're going in at another disadvantage.
I think some of the coolest stuff though is seeing the self-rider work, and it wasn't tilting over perfectly, but it almost like lifted the bot completely off the ground and then threw it over, kind of like some sort of karate fighter, like pushing off their hands right back up. We're trying to increase the speed so it can look exactly like that, but
yeah.
Even if you guys were underdogs in that match, which almost certainly were, like
fun.
it was great testing experience for your robot. Not to mention, like if you did get into Battlebots in the future, almost certainly if they keep the 4-fight format, you'd probably wind up against at least 2 big names. And so getting to fight a big team like Jackpot, I think is huge and great experience, regardless of win or loss.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like in general, like that weekend looked really good for you overall for mainly two reasons. One, your self-rider work. That's really huge for sure.
Yeah, shows
And two, the
improvements from
fact
the
that
Taco Tuesday fight.
the fact that Jackpot did that to you and you got in the arena the next day, that's huge in my opinion. So I think that definitely looked good on your part.
Yeah,
We were
what Dottie said.
just praying that they didn't get our batteries on the first fight. I think that was the one thing where so even if you look back at the footage of the first fight, we lost drive on one of the sides, could not turn the direction, so tried to turn it around, and just enough to save the rear of the bot.
Yeah. But second fight, just real quick, we got hit once, ripped our front wedge in half, and our wheel was gone, and our wheel shaft was gone. Used the self-rider, win, and then he hits the back of the robot.
Against the glass.
It pretty much explodes right there. That was the end. That was the end of the whole bot, of the whole design. The whole bot is just but we were happy with it. We got 6 fights out of it, and it's kind of like, like I mentioned, earlier when we were talking, if that fight was our first fight, I'm not sure, what we really would have done with the robot, because it's hard to, rebuild a completely new robot. But I feel like the fact that we got 6 and now it's kind of retired, I feel like we got its use and we learned so much, and we just finished designing a completely new robot. And it could just cream. It could cream this thing.
V2, yeah.
Just Absolutely. Looking back on everything, and man, it is a lot. It's not totally there yet. We're still learning, but wow, is it better than this one? Looking back on it,
yeah, for sure. Yeah, because Doom talked with us a lot about how they managed to progress from robot that definitely did not do well in the samurai fight to being able to gain a lot of experience through robo games and their first couple Proving Grounds matchups, as well as continue to improve upon their robot to where it worked the way that Alejandro was wanting it to in the Kakon Mortician fight. Like hearing about how you guys have been able to get, how teams like yours has managed to improve upon the robot for future matchups is why this part is like my favorite part of these interviews, at least. And yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to the Orbitron match in March. So at least hearing about it and watching the fight. So yeah, kind of regarding that one, do you have any upgrades planned that you're looking to implement with Disarray for that match? And do you have a strategy in mind for how you're going to take on Orbitron?
Yeah, so it's kind of interesting. I think that both Orbitron and us are doing full design upgrades, and I think we're still rookies. We haven't competed on the show, but I do think it's interesting that we're maybe the first or one of the first rookie teams with Orbitron, to almost be like it's our second season of Destructathon matches, because we're both bringing new bots. So that's an interesting thing going in. I don't know if people are looking at it like a normal rookie fight, but I think both bots are going to look completely different. Ours, we're not using any of the same pieces. I don't even know what we're going to do with the old one. But it is.
I know somebody from the Dutch area that I'm sure would be willing to buy it.
Yeah, what's left
you
of it?
You probably know who I'm talking about, but
yeah, Lars would probably buy it.
And heck, I'd buy a piece. I'd buy a piece of Disarray too.
Yeah, I'd buy a piece.
Yeah, maybe we'll put it on eBay. I don't know.
I definitely wouldn't be able to do full robot, but parts of it for sure.
Yeah, we'll probably put it up because we got a lot of spare parts and stuff that we're not even going to use. We should probably look into it.
If I was at my apartment right now, I'd grab the Orbitron wheel because I managed to get that.
Yeah. There you go.
But upgrades, the self rider is definitely different. We've added more to that. The drive, I think the drive's the most different between the two. So we're hoping to fix a lot of reliability issues from those brush drives that we previously had. So we're using a bit better of a system, or more proven out system. And then weapon, I mean, biggest thing is those belts.
We're switching to the hyper drives for all drive, and we significantly reduced the size of the overall robot. Pretty much every single dimension. Like Nick said, new kind of self rider. It's not like a direct drive. It's got a belt into the gearbox. We got a center chain that we're not sure if we're going to use, but it'll link the front to the rear in case we've had some problems with traction. So hopefully maybe the back motor will be able to help the front wheels a little bit. We've moved our belts to the outsides of the weapon. I think we might bring a single disc configuration. We have increased our front wedge armor to 1/4 inch. We've added side, like thick, taco looking side fenders that are 1/4 inch. We've added a back brace that's 1/4 inch AR. So a lot thicker armor. We're doing a double reduction to the weapon now. Just a lot better packaging of everything. New batteries, new drive controllers,
Lots of
a
fun
longer
stuff.
weapon reach. Yeah, just all kinds of stuff. All kinds of stuff. So it's completely redesigned.
Absolutely. I
Still
can't
got the
wait to
eyes.
see.
Those
Can't wait to.
eyes.
Ooh, there's that.
So
Too.
the eyes are probably similar. We got a decal. We still got to sticker it. We'll see how it changes.
Excited to see it when the first match of Disarray and Orbitron goes up for supporters.
Yeah,
It'll be
it should be
interesting to
good.
see how well both those robots it's rebound since it sounds like based on what you're saying, both teams are probably doing a rebuild from the ground up.
Yeah, we'll have
Right.
its kinks and flaws. So hopefully, we are pretty tight on time. So hopefully we can kind of work out the brushless drive is probably going to be the biggest challenge because that's a completely new control system for it. But that'll probably be our biggest factor. So we gotta get those ordered and start testing those at least. Maybe we could throw them on the old chassis, kind of drive it around, but that'll be the biggest thing to look for.
For sure. So I could get to my next question then. Basically, what design challenge do you think is critical to kind of overcome so a Disarray can get to the next level?
My first thought is different configurations. We wanted, like, the first time designing it, there was so little time, where we kind of just focused on having a big weapon to the best defense is attack, but in BattleBots it's kind of hard. So we definitely need different configurations for our front wedges. We never ran them, but we always threw around the idea of forks. Just to defend. I think the biggest thing as a team we're scared of is horizontal spinners. But
yeah, I agree. The configurations. So we are trying to maybe bring a single disc, different side profiles, different, armor thicknesses in certain places. I think that'll be the biggest focus. I'm not sure if we'll change too much between Orbitron and a potential tournament acceptance, and we'll just be adding different configurations for robots. I think will be the biggest thing, because I do think that's, like Nick said, I do think that's the biggest thing that those top teams are doing, is they're really preparing. I mean, we would just prepare for somebody the same as we would prepare for somebody else right now. So I definitely think having those would definitely be probably a game changer in those fights.
Absolutely. Hey, that definitely makes sense. So, all right. So then next question. All three of you want to give an answer for this one. You're absolutely welcome to. basically, who's a Proving Grounds robot you'd be interested in taking on in the future, and who would be another Proving Grounds robot that you would want to avoid, if any?
For Proving, I want to take on like Jackpot again. With the new robot, just to see, how it fares. I think it's a pretty good test for the overall robot reliability. And it would be fun to kind of see if we could go the distance a little bit better with him.
I think Jackpot also announced that they're also doing a full rebuild or something like that. Discord.
Yeah, after all that damage.
Dang, we took him out.
Robot I would want to avoid. I think I know that Gigabyte goes to a lot of Proving Grounds. That would be very interesting. Probably want to avoid them. That's a good way to lose a robot. Or Bloodsport, like Nick was saying, the horizontals. We're just not ready configuration wise for a horizontal. We've mostly been designing for verticals, so probably stay away from Bloodsport. Nick and Alex, I don't know what you guys think.
One I was thinking of, and I don't even know if they've done Proving Grounds, so I don't know. But we were watching the Twins kind of warm their robots up while we were there.
They did have
and
a
I don't know if this would fall in want to fight or don't want to fight, but that was fun to watch. And even if we just ran circles around, I would like to fight them just to watch them fight.
Yeah, for me, Apex always looks pretty cool. I'm very interested in that robot. And then one robot, it's also like, I don't know if I want to fight him or not want to fight him, but Roundhouse would screw us up. And I feel like we'd learn so much from it if we did that. So we both excited to do that, but also like that would definitely, we would have to prepare a lot for a fight like that.
Yeah, and to kind of piggyback off that a little bit, we're kind of in a weird position. I feel like maybe we're closing in on a tournament date, so it's hard to go into a fight where you're going to take a lot of damage when you could be needing the robot and those parts maybe a month or two later. So it is kind of tippy-toeing a little bit about even the Orbitron fight. I'll be completely honest, was kind of it took us a little bit to kind of confirm and lock in, because it's like, gosh, we don't know. We were locking in like December or November or something, but it was just kind of like, shoot, like if that falls within a certain timeline, and if something big breaks and you maybe need a redesign, it's just with the tournament maybe coming up, it's hard to take on a damaged robot. So we'll see kind of how it goes after the Orbitron fight, if we schedule something else again. But it would be very interesting to do a horizontal spinner.
Yeah, I imagine you could maybe get Travis T to take you on.
Yeah.
They might want more matchups, maybe.
Yeah. Do they have something? I don't know who's.
I know they have matchups with Hellfire and Swamp Thing weekend,
that's right.
And then they're taking on who's the other one?
Apex.
Yep, Apex another weekend. And
okay.
Literally the week after too, which is pretty.
That's
crazy.
Interesting. Yeah, that'll be interesting. A lot of damage. You gotta be prepared. A lot of spares.
Yeah.
Two horizontals.
It should be exciting regardless, and definitely can't wait to see more of Disarray.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then my next question is basically, there's a lot of Proving Grounds competitors competing for a spot in the top 50 of BattleBots, or one of the alternate spots potentially. What factors do you think kind of makes Disarray stand out of that fund? Whether it's like the design of the robot, fight quality, experience, or whatever, anything like that.
I think it's probably our I would say our team's, reliability, and I really value the communication the team has, and we fought 6 out of 6 of our fights. We show up on time. We do what we need to do on time. So I think just from like a logistical standpoint, I think we're a good team to just work with in general. But from a robot and a design standpoint, I think the aesthetic of the bot is kind of getting around. I think people like what it looks like. I know there's kind of a lot of boxy 4-wheel drive vertical spinners, and we really liked the overall design of kind of Hypershock and Witch Doctor. So we kind of tried to do something similar that was a little bit more creative in the contour. And our robot, the new version of the robot, it's a little less. It doesn't have that big of a hump in the back, so it kind of flattened out a little bit, but it does kind of still have that good profile. And I kind of do like how the wings kind of offer a little bit of damage for the crowd. Everybody seems to like that because that's why you're watching BattleBots. So it's nice to have kind of a decoration like a rivet style decoration. A little bit. But yeah, do you guys have anything to add?
I think that was well said.
I would add one thing. Maybe it is due to inexperience, but I do think we're very bold in the ring. I don't think we're a team that's gonna run around and be afraid to like lose a robot. One of the benefits of having a lot of funding is we're not too worried about our precious dollars that went into these, like some of these teams are. So we are a-okay with we spent all this time to see it fight, so we're not going to run into a corner and hide. So we'll go head to head with Jackpot, even if it really doesn't make a whole lot of sense too, because it's more fun, it's more exciting, and it's what we want to see too.
It's a great test of what your robot can do and how well it can take like weapon on weapon exchanges with Jackpot or a robot like it. So yeah, I think even if Disarray kind of got crushed in there, definitely the Jackpot fight did a lot of things for y'all, a lot of good things as well. So
yeah, we needed to know that wasn't tournament ready.
Oh yeah.
We needed to get that out of our head.
Zaza, you got any questions?
I was going to ask a couple. So the first one I wanted to ask was, you guys are building a vertical spinner, and there's already a whole bunch of those on the show, and there's a whole bunch that have come out to Proving Grounds. How do you feel your chances of acceptance stack up to all of those other verts?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good question. Going into Proving Grounds, we weren't really sure what the landscape was going to look like, I guess, of the new rookie bots that were signing up. We knew there were a lot of verts and BattleBots, but I guess we didn't really know there were going to be a lot of verts in Proving Ground. But maybe that was just due to a lack of research on our part. We weren't really sure, but like I kind of mentioned before, we were pretty constrained, right? Our senior design was from August to May, right, that we had to be done. So kind of biting off something we could chew. We wanted to make sure we got the opportunity, we got to compete at BattleBots in some fashion. So even doing something like a vertical spinner, we wanted to inflict a lot of damage. We wanted to have a cool spinny weapon, and we figured if we're going to put all this time and money into it, it'd be nice to kind of see some things, explode, take some damage. So that was kind of our thoughts coming in. We knew, there's a lot of, it is, Witch Doctor-y, a bit, with the overall configuration. But as far as stacking up, I think we're just mostly just focusing, on what we can control. This is kind of the design we went with. We're very happy with it. We're very happy with our new revision. We're signing up for fights. We're giving the people what they want. So I think just focusing on what we can control and not really worrying about, if the other competitors are, doing better or doing worse. just kind of focusing on our matches.
Fair enough. And then the other question I wanted to ask was about Disarray's minibot Heatwave. I was curious about this and never really thought to ask before, but does it compete as its own bot elsewhere, or is it just kind of something with Disarray?
So this was it's kind of a funny story, but this was the 12-pound robot that the freshman tried to. So it used to have a bar across there in the left side of this picture with a little spinner.
You could see the wheel on the ground. Fell off before the fight. It's so funny. But it was interesting to see a bot or see our freshmen come up with a bot so quickly. But yeah, definitely competed. And like Al was talking about earlier, it definitely encouraged the club to go into a different direction. I think it's a great idea. We love the fire idea. We continue to throw it around. I don't know if you wanted to add anything more, Al, or continue, but
yeah. So it was kind of we gave it to a few freshmen. We were like, hey, if you want your robot to come in into the box with us and kind of be a big spectacle, getting hit by jackpot, maybe it explodes. Because they were completely done with it. They were like, we never want to see this thing again. So it's more to be just like, well, if you design a flamethrower, we'll put it in there. Because initially we were gonna put it in Disarray, but we just kind of scrapped the idea. It was a couple pounds. We didn't really have a great spot for it. We didn't really know where we wanted to shoot it out from. So we were like, here's the preliminary CAD. You guys can go ahead and finish it, put it in your robot. And it was so janky. They were testing it at the school. I probably shouldn't say that, but it was like catching on fire. The grass was catching on fire. It was just such a crazy experience. And it's like where's the flamethrower or the fire extinguisher? When you go out and check out, and they'd be like, oh, it's so great working with the younger guys. But fortunately, they were able to get it in the second fight. The flames kind of worked, but it was really funny. We were like testing it before the match on Saturday or Sunday, I can't remember which. And we were outside and we got robbed for the safety check. And he comes out and he's like, all right, go ahead and light it up. And the kids, I call them kids, they're freshmen, but the kids, they turned it on. And he's like, all right, go ahead and turn it off. And the gas just kept coming. The flames just kept coming. And the top of the robot caught on fire. And he was like, yeah, that's not going to work. But they got it together. But it's kind of just a fun little thing that we did. I don't know if we'll have another one, but I think it would be fun. We've thrown around the idea of we have a bunch of 3-pound robots in the club, so we've thrown around the idea of like if you want your bot to come in, like we'll just set it in there, and they can drive around, drive around in the battle box. I'm not too sure on the rules about mini bots, but we would take off the weapon and stuff. But just kind of a fun thing for the younger kids to kind of get up there on the glass and drive around. Definitely, good engagement in the club and good retention. But like Nick said, we have thrown around the idea of putting it on the robot. But we can't really settle on a good place to have the flames come out of. We've talked about underneath the wings. We've talked about through the eyes. We've talked about, through the weapon. But you got to mount the ignition somewhere, and we just haven't really given it real in-depth thought. But we've talked about it. Maybe for the tournament, it might make an appearance. But
cool,
awesome. Yeah, any other questions, Azar? Is that it?
I have one more, but I'll save that for a little bit later if we have any other things to go to.
Dottie, you got any questions?
Let me think. When you designed the robot, like, how did you feel when you discovered that Manta was a thing? When there was like a second like vertical spinner that was also like a blue Manta Ray themed robot, but did you know about that like before you designed it, or
I thought it was a joke.
Yeah.
We were talking to the ASU guys because they run a really good program up there. We were just talking to them about the robot and the club in general and how they operate their tournaments and the logistics of it. But yeah, we were on a Zoom call with them, and he was like, "Oh, there's a team in Phoenix that's building a bot named Mana." And our original name was Mana. And so we thought they were just pulling our leg. We were just like, oh my gosh, what are you talking about? And we had no idea until we actually like saw the thing. And I think I called Greg one time and he was like, yo, you need to change your, or no, it was Mana.
And
then it was Sting.
Yeah.
And then he was like, you guys should change your name. And then we changed it to Disarray. But it was initially Mana. And the guy was literally just like, oh, there's somebody building a Mana, and then we saw it in Robo games, and I was like, oh my gosh. But it was just such a coincidence that's kind of like the ASU U of A rivalry, and then it's like we build the same named robot. It was just like such a weird coincidence. But it is, it is I guess a little concerning, just with the 2 Mana Ray robots. It's a little weird because Mana's
like
already kind of.
You can maybe start beef with them, and
I know. I wouldn't be surprised if we got matched up with them in the tournament. If we got in, it would probably be something they would do.
It's also wild that both kind of aqua themed robots are from Arizona.
Yeah, right.
That too.
Yeah, it's perfect for a rivalry. Really, you just gotta start beef with them on Facebook so everyone sees it, and the show will be like, "Oh, we gotta accept them for the rivalry."
I don't know if we want to do that.
There's some where maybe that's the risk you don't want to take because it is Manta.
Manta lost to lost to a 20-year-old robot. They could take him.
Are you stronger than Hexadecimator?
Dottie trying to start drama here.
I'm just saying that BattleBots loves it when teams have beef. They'll if a person leaves a team and builds a new robot, they'll play it up on the show like they got into a fist fight behind the scenes or something. When Tim Rackley left Monsoon for Ragnarok, they played it all up Tim and Tom had this huge beef when in reality he just wanted to build a hammer bot. Mm-hmm. They love that. They love that drama.
It was really wild going straight from not building robots to building this one because there is a lot of everyone saying no, you can't do it. Super proud of the team for actually getting to this point. But
yeah, we asked some silly questions in the big Discord when we kind of started. Oh man, and it was just
what have
we gotten into? Everybody just kind of what are you guys doing? But I think we've made friends.
It's all about the learning process.
Yeah.
And I mean, if anybody trashes you like that, saying you can't do it, just respond with the typical response of finish your beetle.
I remember someone from the Jinx. She said, just start the project because you won't necessarily have all the skills, and then once you do the project, you'll gain those skills. That's what the project's for. I loved hearing that. So.
Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah.
Props to Jinx, the Jinx team.
For sure.
Hi, Jinx.
So then I'll ask my next question.
The Jinx. Oh. That was a new nickname.
I'll ask my next question then. So kind of this is the first time BattleBots has been doing Proving Grounds, and basically, what's kind of your general opinion on it? Basically, do you like it? Do you not like it? Reasons why?
We've really enjoyed it. I don't know if we would have gotten accepted. I don't think we had a shot if now knowing what the landscape is and who's out there and being really involved in the tournaments or not the tournaments but the competition, the matches. We had some hope when we were building it, back in 2022, 2023. But I don't think we would have had a shot if we didn't go to Destructathon, and if we had gotten into the tournament, we would have gotten hit once, done, lose a robot, lose another robot, and then forfeit the next two. So it has been really, really important for us to grow as a team. And also just, if we don't get onto the show, we've gotten to fight, 6 or 8 times, maybe even more in the future. So just having that opportunity to just use the robot. I know they used to, well, at least on the application, they say that you shouldn't build the robot until you've been accepted into the tournament and you build at your own risk or whatever. But so it's been really nice to be able to just build it and then use it as kind of our application. Because I don't really think we would have had a shot if it was just, the application and it was it's not built. We're waiting on kind of the go ahead and, we build it and it sucks. And so it's definitely been so important for just learning about, what it's really all about. And just how underprepared we were for the jackpot fight.
Yeah, it's also nice to see robots like Terra Dominator trying to do flipper spinner, and then Taco trying to do a different drive configuration at the 250 level. I think that was crazy stuff to see.
I think it's going off of Nick, even if maybe a team isn't ready for BattleBots, because it is very expensive getting the robots and spares and travel all together. So even if you didn't want to build a 250, you could come with maybe a little underweight, just trying out a design, and just have a fight or two against somebody that you choose who to fight. You're not kind of thrown into something. So even from that standpoint, just letting people come and experience it. I know we're fortunate enough to be only 6 hours away, so I kind of talk, maybe for myself, but just having that, being able to be so close and just being able to come and fight whenever and whoever has just been really, really nice.
Yeah, something I even hope they kind of improve upon for in the future, at least, is definitely well, you mentioned that you're only 5 hours away and able to get a robot down there, and then David Small said something similar when we talked with him about Banshee, and then Craig Danby also said that as well. And a lot of these teams are so close to where it doesn't cost too much to travel and bring an entire robot down there to test it out or partake in a couple proving grounds fights. That's not necessarily the case for people across the country or even across the planet as well, on the other side of the world, basically. And there are almost certainly some international teams that would certainly love to test out their designs at proving grounds. It's just international shipping is just so expensive.
Mm-hmm.
Evan, something I'm hoping for in the future is maybe we'll see kind of more options, more opportunities for some of these international teams that aren't able to come down here for those reasons. And
the more we desire that, the more demand there will be for another arena or something. That would be sick for the sport. But
definitely. All right, so yeah, then kind of a little more of a funny question that came in on Discord this morning, the same server you were talking about. If you replace your weapon with a food item, what would it be?
With a food item.
Is that based on the shape?
Really, just anything. Because if I gave you an answer, basically, yeah, Craig Danby said he would go with a stale baguette for that. And if he was working with Apex, he was talking about dried spaghetti for that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, it's kind of a little bit off topic, but one of our, I call it an initial design. Yeah, I see Nick cracking a smile, but we were trying to kind of, throw some designs around, just kind of a creative brainstorming. And Alex and I had kind of came up with this one called the Kraut Cowboy.
Not where I thought you were going with this. Way better though.
It's called the Kraut Cowboy, and it was actually just it was a walker bot.
Kraut,
and it was yeah, it was just so chantable, like Kraut, like a good one syllable name. and we were thinking about doing like a walk. We weren't thinking about it, but the idea was to do a walker bot with a big jar of sauerkraut and like a little cowboy hat. I mean that's it. I mean then it just gets smacked and the kraut goes everywhere. Cook up some bratwurst in the back, on a grill for the fans. So I guess if I were to do a food-based robot or a food-based weapon or whatever, I would do a kraut cowboy.
The one that kind of came to mind for me, we put a lollipop in there instead of the spinner.
Oh, so I was way off topic.
I was thinking like sushi.
Well, no, that works too. It's like we're just looking for funny answers and like that. So like your answer is very valid. So
yeah, I think it'd be really cool to have like a sushi chopper. You just chop up the sushi and you send it out really fast. You flick it out. That'd be a cool.
It's like you get the weapon up to full speed and then you just hit a thing of sushi right into the audience, basically. That they try to catch some of that, or sweet. Put a splash, or Greg or Trey put a splash zone in there for that.
Audience interaction.
We're college students, and I know there's already a robot ripperoni, but I mean, like a week-old pizza can really knock you out. So, like, just the old pizza that could do some damage.
That is a good point. Alrighty then.
Yeah, I don't know. That's all I got for that one.
That's totally fair. You answered the question. Zaza, you got any more questions then?
Yeah, just I had one I wanted to ask because you guys had mentioned that this was like your first real foray into robot combat, and you guys really jumped off the deep end, coming straight to BattleBots, which is pretty impressive. But I wanted to ask, aside from learning all the mechanical and the engineering stuff, what did you guys learn about the sport and how competition works, and what was that like going straight in to the big leagues?
Another thing I really like about Proving Grounds is that we're like one of the two teams that are expected to come, so they're all like, oh yay, something different than the robots we've been watching. So everybody was really like helpful, and we knew we had like a little pit, and it's like the one of the only little pits that's open. And we could test in the box, the big box whenever we wanted. We were all prepared. So I think from that standpoint, being able to kind of like, it is our first like combat robot. So being able to like edge into BattleBots and not just like showing up to a tournament where it's like you go here, you go there, we don't know anything that's going on. That's been really, really nice because now I feel like we know like the road to turn on to like get there and stuff. So just from that standpoint of like learning a little bit more about where the competition takes place and some of the safety and rules associated with it, I think that's one of the biggest kind of reliefs, at least I've felt, just for learning outside the robot and just learning about BattleBots in general is just kind of being able to ease into it a little bit. I feel like if we showed up to a tournament, we wouldn't be running around with our heads cut off. I think we would be a little more calm. But for the competition aspect, the actual robots, it's crazy how like supportive the community is. I think that's really what we've learned. The jackpot fight, Jeff really helped us with some things that we could improve in kind of the next design. And then Aren Hill was there with his team, and we had a few of them help our electrical guy tune some speed controllers and kind of just look through it with him. But it's amazing, they literally won the world championship, and now they're kind of just helping us when they're trying to do their own thing. So I think from that standpoint too, it kind of eased the nerves a lot more too, just being able to reach out for some help, and not just thinking not trying to be a know-it-all, and just kind of taking the help and just taking all the friendliness. But I'd say the support was really cool, just to experience, and just the overall kind of BattleBots community.
Yeah. One thing that I think's crazy about the whole sport is how different each weight class is. Learning a 3 pound versus a 150 is you use different materials, and with so much of this stuff, I mean, the higher in weight class you get, the more on the edge you become. So like some of our stuff, finding wheel bearings, and then also seeing that the wheel bearings are $200. It's like even just us welding the AR 500 is something that we have. Like you don't experience that when you're building a little off-road buggy, like some of us had done. There's so much of that stuff, and then even at the 3 pound group, you're trying to eke out every bit of performance. It has to come through iterations. I mean, it's a great way of engineering things, and there's a fun way of proving whether your thing worked or not. It's fun to destroy stuff. It's fun to build stuff. But definitely each weight class has its own unique stuff, and there's a unique rule set for it.
Yeah, I think that's very well said. And to piggyback off that a little bit, I think we had all kind of been in projects and, in our coursework, you're just kind of trying to design something that, works. And I think this had been, one of our first projects where we were weight constrained. And the first rev, we had such thin armor because it was kind of just like get all the subsystems made and then just kind of throw armor on. But the considerations for weight, it's just such an engineering challenge because you're going to be getting hit. So you want, something strong and a lot of thickness. But it's like, you can't have it. You can't have it. So I think it's really like tested and challenged all of us, and being able to look at all the different designs and how people do things. It's just so interesting because, there's an optimal and ideal solution. But then seeing like, we actually took weight from here and put it here, could be completely different to how somebody else does it. So that's been something really interesting too with just the overall competitors, is just seeing, how people do different things. Because I think we had a pretty kind of rudimentary design for the first revision. It was, pretty basic systems. But this next time, we're spending, quite a bit more money, making custom parts, and it's like, this was steel from this, McMaster, can we make it ourselves and make it aluminum or something? And it's like, oh my gosh, it saves half a pound. It's like, wow. But just like looking from that standpoint, that's been something really cool to learn from the other robots too.
I was gonna say something similar. I don't think we realized the fine margins of the sport. Like he said, a half pound is a huge deal. I think we just were like, oh yeah, here's our 4 motors. This is just what they're going to weigh, and there's nothing we can do about it. And then, you realize that you have a quarter of the armor that every other robot has out there. And it's like, okay, now this is why people are, this is why Hypershock has created their own motors, because if you can, every pound you can save is another pound that you can put somewhere where you're going to get hit. And again, like they said, if you FEA it out, if you do the analysis, your robot isn't going to survive a hit. And I think that was challenging too. We're used to problems that we can solve. Used to building shocks that are going to withstand forces, and the car is going to hold up. But you're not going to withstand the forces that you see in the arena. And that was challenging.
Sure, it's pretty well said. And Saza, you got any more questions?
No, I think that that was a pretty good answer there.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Dottie, you have any questions then?
Not that I can think of. I'm really bad at coming up with questions, but yeah, I don't have anything
fun
off
to
the top
have
of my head.
around regardless. So,
Yeah.
all right. So yeah, anything else left to share from you three about Disarray or any of the other topics we've talked about?
Kind of going off that last bit. I mean, I was talking about our first iteration. We were like 300 and something pounds. It was going from iteration to iterations. Great. It's great engineering. I like overall the sport. Love the sport. Great. Great engineering.
Yeah, for
Love
sure.
to hear it.
Alrighty then. So then I think we'll probably close it out for this interview. So thanks to everybody who's tuning in for this. Thanks to Alex, Alan, Nick for all coming to this thing to talk about Disarray with us and talk about their experience at Battlebots so far. Yeah, it was awesome to get to listen in to some of this stuff, and yeah, it was great having all three. Oh, it was great having all three of you on for this. So
Yeah, no, thanks for
Thank
having
you.
us. I appreciate it and love,
yeah, for
talking
sure.
about the robot and kind of the path here. So yeah, it's
Yeah,
been great.
exactly. That's kind of the idea of this, because like combination that it's so much fun to get to talk with the actual builders about some of their robots, getting to learn some new things about it, and get to learn about the experience. And then as well, with the fact that this is a YouTube podcast, it kind of promotes awareness of your robot and some of your experience,
Mhm.
and yeah, that's kind of some of my general purposes of doing some of this stuff. So
Yeah.
yeah,
No,
it
well,
was
we
great. It
appreciate
was
it.
great having you all on, and would definitely love to have you on again in the future. So
Happy to share stories about the bot.
oh, absolutely. So
Yeah,
yeah,
it was a lot of fun for sure. I'm looking forward to the manta beef. That's gonna be a lot of fun.
Oh no.
yeah, looking
There's
forward to
only one
that
ocean
if
in
it ends up
Arizona.
happening. And same thing with the Disarray and Orbitron fight. Definitely can't wait to see that,
That'll be
as well
fun.
as any other future matchups that Disarray ends up having in the future. So yeah, wish you a lot of luck with that, and hopefully maybe we'll get to see Disarray and BattleBots in the next season. But we'll see. So
Yeah, we'll see.
Fingers crossed.
yep. Once again, thanks for watching, and we'll go ahead and get to the next interview. All right, hi everybody, and welcome to another Proving Grounds interview here with another Proving Grounds team. This time we got a familiar face on the podcast. He's been here once before. We have Aren Hill running the robot, the Twins. So how's it going, Aren?
It's going all right. Been a couple of months since went and played, but happy to chat about what went down.
Yeah, absolutely. And then Zaza is also here as usual, as Zaza has been for all these interviews so far, to ask any questions that Zaza may have. So, yeah. So basically, first question will just be something really simple. For all the people out there that don't know about the twins and aren't aware about it, can you tell us a little bit about the design of the robot or the
Yeah,
robots?
like that. I would say, as most people know, we like having different takes on things and trying to find new ways to win fights. And looking at a lot of the advancements that have happened over the last couple of years, one of the places I wanted to have a foray into was make a multibot good. It's like, okay, so the twins are our take so far, and everything we do is effectively a work in progress to some degree. Our take on a multibot that we're trying to make as competitive as we can. It's two four-wheel drive vertical spinners. They have the same drivetrains in them as Tantrum and Blip individually. So it's that plus I'll say we don't suck at ground game. that and then similar levels of magnet in each one to Claw Viper. So it's two of those zipping around the arena. So
Yeah, it was fun. It was fun watching it fight in that match with Fireball. So, uh, yeah, even if the match didn't end up going the way it might have been intended, but yeah. Anyway, then, speaking of Fireball, can you kind of give a little bit of a recap of the match, and then as a part two of that, basically, were there any design issues that you kind of noticed from that match, and that you looked to work through, and how did you address them, if any?
yeah, so I'll say it was a little interesting going into Proving Grounds because team seems reasonable is in a different place relative to BattleBots than
Sure.
brand newcomers as far as a crew running new stuff. So from our perspective, the signing up for Proving Grounds was a really good stake in the sand of get a lot of progress happening on this thing because deadlines are great as far as like making stuff actually happen. So the biggest thing for Twins was getting something done and ready to go into a match. And then in this case, it was nice because instead of it being a normal BattleBots, it's oh, we went into a match and we knew we weren't there, but we're way farther now than we would have been if we had not done it. So we went into a match, and if anybody's kept track of the NHRL fights and open source fights of the twerps, things are chaotic with two with two robots and coordination between drivers. And it's like, okay, so the things we've learned and things we knew weren't done going into that fight. There was we're obviously trying some stuff in ground game land, but one of the main ones was we have not practiced nearly as much as required. It's a completely different ball game from a mental perspective than anything we've had in the past, because it isn't just talk about strategy before a fight and then everything lives in my head or everything lives in Dylan's head. And for the most part, it's one person driving chassis controlling what's happening in the fight. In this case, it's now two people driving two chassis, both of which are fully capable of shoving around an opponent, and then also trying to keep track of an opponent. So what actually has happened so far is we went from one person and then sometimes having a bit of a coach just yelling out time or just giving one step up feedback, but not superficially. So now there's three of us, as far as is myself, William Stanley, driving the two robots. He's a younger member, and you've probably seen his face around a bit. And then Alex has been serving as coach in terms of stop trying to pay attention to everything, trying to pay attention to where you're at, trying to pay attention to where your opponent's at, and where your partner's at, in order to be sensical about it. Anybody who's seen the Proving Grounds fight with Fireball knows we were doing none of that in that fight. And yeah, as far as the actual fight went, I got one scoop in and hit early and ended up breaking apart on my twin's spinner, which was the hub setup is a inch thick AR500 disc slid onto a hub with a big nut. And at some point in time in the rush of building this, I made that nut way harder than it should have been. So it just cracked and popped off. So my weapon was down after that hit. So it's like, okay, well, I'm wedged now. Drive around. And then I ended up, I think I caught one of the floor slots, face planted. But there's still some instances in there of a half-weight robot having no issue shoving Fireball around. And then one of the things we figured out practice-wise is if you're going to practice, make sure you're practicing every single thing you'll be doing. And in this case, the second twin's weapon was barely ever above idle speed, which was set very low. So it was pretty much not on from an energy perspective for any other hits past that. Both robots actually took some decent hits and roly-poly came back at it. And then there was the last one at the end, which, like, yes, it happened to one of our robots, but it was also 6 shots. So
Oh yeah,
congrats
for
to
sure.
Fireball on that one. But yeah, so that was the match.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, sadly we didn't get to see a date fight 2 of the twins that weekend, but yeah.
That was that was actually an interesting discussion, because what we would have actually had to do to get in another fight was either just go in with one weapon between the two robots, or I'd machine literally another nut out of stuff I could find at the venue
Gotcha.
on there, because they still have the tarmac and stuff. And I would say we had a decent growth spot as a team, because a couple team members realized and went, "Hey, what are we actually trying to accomplish here?" And it was because all of us like fell back into like default, like, okay, match tomorrow, go. It's like, no, we're looking for learnings here. Like, this was a deadline for us to get the robot done and for us to learn things about this robot and how to make it better. And what are we going to learn from going into another fight and having another level of chaotic driving not coordinated? Versus we don't kill ourselves making new weapon components. As far as I shouldn't need to, because
Yeah, it makes sense.
twins were built with minimal spares, and just from a budget perspective, like it's not a full season. We don't know what's going to change, so it's so we just decided day 2, instead of killing ourselves to make that happen, we just got both robots happily drivable, and then spent the entire day sparring and went through like probably 10 sets of batteries in the box. It was like just turn and go. So anybody was like, they're too wrecked to fight the next day. I'm like, we chose not to, and we just did a bunch of sparring, including some against Gigabyte at the end with weapons off. And it was basically The sparring match we had against Gigabyte with Alex coaching, Will and I doing stuff after having done a bunch of drills felt a bajillion times better than the fireball fight the day before. So it was very much a good reminder. Take the step back. What are the goals here? The goals are for us to get the twins to the level we'll be happy bringing them to next season of BattleBots. With that in mind, what is the best path forward here? So
Yeah,
I have seen people on the internet go they got exploded, and I'm like, actually, I'm pretty happy with how they took hits.
Yeah, it seemed like overall it seemed like it performed pretty well, and then it sounds like just
They're
figuring out
hysterically fast.
Yeah.
It is silly.
Yeah, I forget which team it was we interviewed. Zaza, was it Disarray or was it Travis T we interviewed yesterday who said that they watched probably
The Disarray
the
crew was
practice
there.
session. Yeah, that's probably was Disarray, and they talked. Pretty much one of the other questions that I'll eventually ask is basically a robot you'd be interested in fighting. You guys were one of the options that the Disarray team listed, and for that reason, so yeah. So anyway, then next question is kind of like, what design challenge do you kind of feel is critical to overcome for the twins to kind of reach the next level? Or doesn't necessarily have to be design challenge, can take out that word if you want to answer with the teamwork type thing.
Well, yeah, it's a combo of things. Basically, in order for us to have weapons that are effectual enough that we feel comfortable that they will do what we want to do in a match, because that is tricky considering they're on a half-weight robot, so weight's got to come from places. The robots aren't as much of a brick as we're used to bringing. That's been it's basically made us have to turn the optimization knob in a lot more places from a weight perspective and packaging perspective. In order to one be lighter and such, but be more confident leaning on, hey, we're faster than the opponent. We should always be interacting from the front. If we hit from the side, we failed. That type of attitude. So it's getting the robot optimized such that we have the best front end ground game for facing robots, and then the happily somewhat separable part is practice. So in this case, actually commissioned some training robots size stuff from a fellow builder that I think he's going to have up and driving fairly soon. But to get to the point, because between season 4 and 5, with when COVID hit, etc., we had a chance to get 9 hours of drive time on the Tantrum chassis. And that helped a lot. One, it was the new chassis, the new drivetrain design, which is very similar to where it is nowadays. Really happy with how that works. But it was a significant amount of drive time. That also compounds and gets harder when all of a sudden, in order to get drive practice, it's now we need to get 3 of us in one place and somebody to drive the opponent robot. So it's 4 people you now have to coordinate, and all of us do have lives to some degree. So we made some choices as far as literally getting smaller robots of a set of 3 to lower the barrier of hey, come over, get practice, and not need to load up the actual twins, go to a parking lot, wear through tires. Just everything can be much faster and more uptime, and coordination is coordination. So
Yeah, for sure. Totally get that. Yeah. Basically then, next question will basically be, will we by chance see the twins at Proving Grounds again in the future prior to World Championship 8? If you're able to reveal.
TBD. My hunch is probably yes, but it's very hard to plan around stuff when I don't know when next season's thing is going to happen. So probably yes. It would be basically, it'd be good for us to go through, do all the practice with little robots, then the one final iteration of just all right, does everything happily translate, or do we need to do some cramming between? Okay. So
Yeah,
I would say likely yes. We are in the beneficial spot where I can load up a bunch of stuff into my van and drive to Vegas. It's a 9-hour trip, but
yeah, at least you're in the area, or well, I don't know exactly about in the area, but closer than some other teams.
Close enough that it's not costing us thousands and thousands of dollars in order to go do it.
Yeah. Okay, and so now then for next question, basically, kind of already mentioned this one. What's a robot you'd be interested in fighting, and who is a robot you'd want to avoid out of all the robots who've kind of been to Proving Grounds so far, if any?
And so yeah, I'm in the get all the data you can, because when the next I'm Proving Grounds to me they're Proving Grounds. Like I don't like outcomes don't matter, learnings do, as far as I'm concerned. So one of the robot, like I know I want to face with the twins at some point a massive horizontal. And that's just because like I know how the game goes. I know the I know the people who decide the matches. I know what they like to do to people. And if we're two half-size robots, there's a massive horizontal somewhere in there.
Twins versus Travis T, maybe?
I would say from the ones I've seen so far, I'd probably want to face either like Hellfire or Gigabyte territory, as far as the max swing
Yeah.
big ones. And that is just like, all right, we have a plan. How well did we implement it? Does it work? Like that type of stuff. So
Yeah, the Travis T thing was a little less serious, but yeah, I totally get those two. Maybe Bloodsport as well, or something if Bloodsport
yeah, I'm like,
chooses to return.
we want to get hit hard. Like,
Oh yeah, absolutely.
no,
And fingers crossed,
that
Hellfire.
was
Fingers crossed, Hellfire gets in the
Yeah.
arena this weekend. And since
Yeah,
they're
Well,
'cause
not,
we-
not this weekend, but
oh
soon.
yeah,
yeah,
whichever
that
whichever
one's-
weekend
yeah.
that is. It's just I saw the Battlebots social media post that made me think it's coming this weekend. But
Yeah,
okay,
'cause we
then.
got yeah at the very end of season 3 when we had a chance to throw the robot in the box against Tombstone. I'm like, sweet, 0% chance of winning this. We're gonna learn some stuff though.
Yeah, exactly.
So I kind of need that for the twins.
And then we got my favorite moment in BattleBots through that match, which yeah, we probably know exactly what that is. So, okay then.
Yeah,
So
when Tantrum flipped itself.
now, when Tombstone ripped off the Witch Doctor like fist,
I guess I have the other black plastic. Like we had made a set of black plastic ones, but only one was in that fight. So I have the other one around here somewhere.
and then the other one is on Ray's trophy shelf somewhere. So
The aluminum one, yeah.
yeah. Okay then. So next question is basically there are a lot of Proving Grounds robots that are looking to grab like any of those last like 5 to 15. I don't know how many spots they're going to be in ballots. Just want to grab a spot in the top 50 or maybe one of the alternate spots that they'll have for next year. Basically, what do you think kind of makes the Twins really stand out between all of those robots that have been to Proving Grounds? Whether it's like your experience, fight quality, you kind of get the idea.
Yeah, and I got a lot of people asking us questions before season 6 when they're like, "You're going to bring 2? How are you going to get 2 in?" I'm like, "Look at the field. What do they want? What do you think they want? Ask yourself the question. Be honest about it. Like, okay, at this point in time, we have Tantrum, which is a pretty unique robot that's its own weird niche, and it also got top 4 last year. So we've proven we can put on be reliable and be prepared and put on good fights. And then there's this other robot, which is a flipper that can probably take hits that they haven't had one of those really before. Like, okay. And also there's like 2 flippers. Like it's this fills a niche that they don't have right now. So in our case, it's like, all right, we have our background and they know us, and we're also bringing a robot that they haven't really had. Like there's been Gemini, but there's double horizontals, and I still don't understand what physics-wise why you would do that. Yeah, it's a robot that they haven't had, and in this case, even with a terribly prepared set of drivers going at it, it was still a funny fight. Just from a TV perspective, it's like, okay, it plays different show, feels fills a niche. And yeah, I don't see any reason why it can't be pretty damn competitive too.
Oh yeah, definitely. It was exciting to see, and always practice makes perfect. So, yeah, we've been hearing that quite a bit with quite a few of the other Proving Grounds teams, especially lots of the new teams, and that's kind of been a lot of my favorite parts of these interviews, just hearing about all that growth, and I'm sure we're going to be seeing the same thing with the Twins, at least going forward. So, especially since it sounds like the driving correlation between the two drivers has gotten quite a bit better since that match with Fireball, especially without test driving things. So hopefully you agree
Yep.
or disagree with. Hopefully you agree with that. So
We're on the learning curve. Always on
Oh,
the
yeah.
learning curve.
for sure, and hopefully you do get that horizontal spinner you want. So
Yeah.
yeah. So then next question then will be kind of this is the first time Battlebots has been doing Proving Grounds, and basically what's kind of your general opinion on Proving Grounds in general? Like, do you like it, don't like it, and then reasons why?
It's interesting. There's a lot of arguments both ways from the accessibility side of stuff with regards to like, oh, you're being expected to do all this stuff in order to get on the show. And I would say I like to treat BattleBots as the pinnacle of the sport. If you are serious about wanting to show up and do well, and you have the ability and can hunt down and obtain and manage the resources to go to it, like it's the working harder and putting in more effort than others. Like yeah, everyone's in different situations, but I don't. You can either choose to try to jump through the hoops to get accepted without doing it, which is I still think totally possible. But every time the selection committee picks a robot to and like invites them to come, as far as they're selected, they're basically treating that as an investment, and so there's risk aversion there, and they're managing all that stuff. So if you're, hey, here's this crazy new robot, it's going to be great, and then you show up and it's a dud, that's real hard for them to deal with, as far as because like they're looking for a certain amount of robots out of, oh sorry, a certain amount of fights out of each robot. You know, like Double Tap last year was a whole lot of talk, didn't really show up and deliver. So it's a funky one just because, and like definitely biased because I live close enough to be able to drive. Yeah, it's yeah.
Yeah, yeah, kind of like some of the takes I've shared about it is like basically I love the idea of it because of the fact that we've seen lots of these new teams be able to test out their robots and manage to continually improve it. Like Doom is probably one of the best stories of the bunch in my opinion because we saw that robot drop out last season and then not do the greatest against Samurai, but then they were able to use Robo Games and the many matches they've been in Proving Grounds so far to be able to
And
like
yeah, that's
completely grow the
one of my
robot.
arguments against.
And
One of my arguments, or I was people who are in the, oh, they shouldn't have, like they should lock it down because it's not fair for everyone. It's like, okay, rather than that, what if we just figure out better ways to have more places to test so more people can iterate in the whole. I don't like cap feeling in order to keep the floor at a certain level
oh yeah,
as far as that side of things goes. So like I would say there's been a significant benefit in teams from nearby NHRL area as far as like
yep,
they're getting a whole lot. It's a lot easier for them to fight a lot of robots and learn a lot of things at 30-pound scale. That a lot of those things do apply at the heavyweight scale. So it's like, oh, it's too far away. I'm like, well, you have Norwalk, so bite me. Like,
yeah. Yeah, 'cause one of my big problems with it is just I just wish it would be easier for especially international teams because I'm sure there are quite a few international teams that would be interested in coming to either test out the robot in actual fight or simply just drive it around in the arena. Like you mentioned, you've done with Twins before, and I've heard RDC's been down there a couple times with Cobalt. So, uh,
yep.
yeah, absolutely. So. Then Zaza, you got questions for Aaron? You know, I have a couple others that probably more relate to Tantrum and Blip, but I'll let you ask
Well,
your
most of,
questions
most of
first.
what I was going to ask was regarding, the, this is the first attempt at a multi-bot we've seen in a little while now. So, like, what were some of the things that you looked at when building it between your own experiences, other teams, to kind of get an idea of what you needed to focus on?
Yeah, so we actually got a decent firsthand, Alex, Ginger, Eric, and I at King of Bots in 2019. A firsthand look and got to watch the Hounds, which was Andy, Letty, and Ellis from the UK, and see all the choices they'd made in the half-weight robot with where they put weight, where they didn't, what the drivetrain was, and the various dynamics of it. And they had 2 fights. They won both fights, but they never got put in again because they were worried. Like their league was worried about them just being glass cannons of like one hit and dead. So I got some learnings from watching that one, which like they chose to go very weapon heavy. So I think they had like a 35-pound drum territory. And then they also found out that if they spun it above like 20%, they couldn't turn and they just drove right over. So it was like, all right, important to deal with that type of thing. We also, so I would say that informs some things with regards to what we chose to do from, yes, the twins have led a magnet. And then, yeah, we're not swinging 34 pounds. It's actually more like 24. In terms of weapon energy, because it's like I would rather have the higher velocity impact of the lighter weight weapon than the slower velocity, like 20% spinning a drum. So it's like, okay, back and forth. And then at the end of the day, it's also, we were looking at it like, okay, we can put our existing drivetrain in here in terms of our drivetrain does not weigh very much. It does not take up very much space, which is great. So at that point in time, it's also, it's the, we have 2 of Tantrum Blip's drivetrains in the arena at the same time. Like that's a weapon in and of itself. Our second Proving Grounds outing, we did a sparring match with the live show Overkill, which is, I think Rob said 230 pounds. At one point, one of the twins got magneted to the wedge of Overkill, like stuck to the front of it. And the solution to getting this apart was I pushed Overkill and the twin at velocity into the shelf, popped them apart. I was like, I have a 125-pound robot that just pushed, I think, 355 pounds territory across the arena at speed into the shelf in order to break them apart. Okay. So a lot of it was basically just like, we got to keep all the knobs cranked to the performance side and also make sure the weapon's dangerous enough, which we also have the second Proving Grounds outing. One of the things there was actually hit some stuff and get the go no go on, is this enough weapon energy?
Alrighty.
Any other questions, Zaza?
No, I think that answered the other question I was going to ask as well. So, thank you.
So yeah, last this one then. You're allowed to use Tantrum and Blip for this one. Basically, if you could redo any of your prior matches, which would you choose and what would you do differently in that one?
Redo any match. I would say there's a couple that pop into mind, but they're just like front end choice type things. As far as knowing what I know now, what would I have done? I think it would have been fun to get a more proper crack with Tantrum at Minotaur. And that was, a lot of it was on our own end as far as getting the robot fully ready in the box. It wasn't quite there. Like, as I say, that one could have been a way more epic fight. And then, yeah, not having Tantrum set on fire against Blip. despite like win and lose. Like,
so do you have like a similar setup if you were to have a rematch with Minotaur?
Yeah, every time we learn stuff, so the front end would be a little different, but
gotcha. Yeah, that works.
Mainly having a functional self-raider going to the fight, that would help.
Yeah, that also works too. So, I wasn't certain if it was like a malfunction or if it was just the fact that Minotaur looked like half of it or something like that. But
Minotaur did do a number on things.
Oh yes.
But anytime, any question like that, my answer is always going to be one of the fights that could have been more epic, win or lose. As far as feeling like either we or the audience got robbed of some level of, not necessarily like, I don't know if it would have turned the tide against Minotaur. It just would have been a full 3-minute slug.
Yeah, probably would have been like a little bit of a longer fight than what we saw in that one, but yeah. And so then, basically my basically last question here, is there is there is there how do I want to say this? What is the future basically for Tantrum and Blip if you're able to if you're able to or want to reveal?
Yeah. So we've posted some about this in like AMAs and things. You may see new versions of either one pop up. It's a lot of. I like building cool stuff with my friends. My friends also like building cool stuff. So it's like, all right, what are we excited about? What are we chasing? The pretty much the thing I can guarantee is any robot we put in the arena is turning some weird knob somewhere, in terms of what it's trying and what's trying to make happen. So that can be in any number of avenues. But my hunch is, you'll probably see iterations of things relative to those at a 30-pound scale due to popularity of events and proving things out, before you see them big again.
So my guess is we probably won't see Tantrum and Blip at Battlebots next season, from the sound of it.
I don't know what next season is, so I'm not committing
Oh,
in.
yeah, that's true. Yeah, sounds like still waiting on the announcement and for when filming is. So
Yeah, turns out
we'll see.
TV's companies merging and recreating cable, etc., kind of puts a damper on a lot of stuff.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, probably why I hear It's probably why I hear there's going to be more Proving Grounds weekends probably coming. So, but it should be exciting regardless. So yeah, that's all the questions I have here. So is there really anything else you'd want to share before we close out this interview, Aren? Or if there are any last minute questions you have, Zaza?
I guess one question I would like to ask, since your team's been one of the fastest rising and growing here at BattleBots, from seasons 3 and 4, and then up to the giant nut, which is pretty cool. What are some recommendations you'd give to teams who are just starting out or trying to find their footing in how to grow to that point?
Yeah. So I'm very big on do your homework. If you don't, if you try to start and come up with everything yourself, you're gonna fall flat on your face. Good luck. When we got into this, I asked a lot of questions of a lot of people. Many of which still in the sport. Like, oh yeah, Orion Beach is one of them. Casey Coons, like a bunch of people have had answered a lot of my questions. And when we started building beetle weights too, it was like just started asking a lot of people a whole lot of questions. Why? Because we haven't built them before. Like, do your homework. Learn from others' mistakes. Like every fight you watch, you could probably take something from it. And then I'm aware it's very hard to be usefully creative in combat robotics land, which that to me just reiterates the general sentiment of just start small, and prove stuff out at a smaller, less ridiculous scale. And I know that's hypocritical of me based on we started at BattleBots, but it was very much the learning curve that we messed up at on the start, which I don't know how much of a mess up it really is, considering like we learned and we did good in a lot of areas, but not the right ones. Is just make sure you're focusing on what actually matters to change outcomes of fights. And that is, it's very easy to sit there and go to the nth degree on something and then you're stuck in that minutia, and like your drivetrain sucks. Like you should have been like focus over here as far as like careful what you reinvent, and you have a limited amount of manpower. And yes, you can expand that. If you're trying to grow a team, you need to find a lot of. It's a fun one to manage as far as you're trying to keep a lot of people on the same page and move forward, and find people that are also motivated to like, oh, I want to do good at this combat robots thing. because I have some team members who are just like, oh, I just want to be on a Battlebots team. Let me know what you need me to do. I had some team members that are, hey, I have all of this input in design land, and you should listen to it. And we are better for both sets of those people as far as brains go. Very much better. I know some builders who like, I prefer to build alone because I just don't want to manage and have to deal with so many cooks in the kitchen. Go for it. That's up to you. I think we can pull off, like, seems reasonable, can pull off some pretty crazy stuff because we have a lot of cooks in the kitchen, and yeah, on the design side of stuff. So it's a balancing act. And then yeah, like we've landed in a solid enough spot resource wise, and it's just, yeah, it all takes maintenance too, as far as keeping things up and moving, and different people's motivations will change as the years go on. So
Awesome. Pretty
that's
well
my
said.
long-winded answer.
It's a good answer.
Yeah, for sure. Oh yeah, you got anything else left to share, Aren, or should we close out this interview?
If anybody who likes robot combat hasn't watched the NHL All Stars, you should watch it. Dutch Oven's very fun.
Oh, for sure.
Well, one, you got to this 4 of us box side. This is Alex's robot. It's a beetle weight called Dutch Oven. 4 of us box side. Alex running the flamethrower, William driving it, Alec running the hoop, and I'm running a mini bot. It's just a full squad of us going, okay. But there's some good robot fighting. So, and then also, yeah, enabling YouTubers to do silly things. But would recommend. Was fun.
Imagine if the twins ever expands into 4 robots like the 4 horsemen, and instead, then you'd have some chaos at BattleBots or something like that.
Yeah, but like I already have a decent, like, I mean, honestly, like the fundamental thing to the twins, like the whole reason to ever have 2 robots is like, okay,
oh yeah,
the opponent can't point at both of us at once.
oh yeah,
Like, unless you're round, and it's like, okay, cool, you have other disadvantages. But like that's the core of it, and there's definitely diminishing returns after 2 because the robot has to be able to hit hard enough to do something to the opponent.
yeah.
So if all of a sudden you split to 4, it's like, yep, nope. Physics says nope.
Yeah, I would agree, and yeah,
We'll have enough chaos with 2.
Bloodsport and the 4 horsemen probably really explains that one, but yeah.
Yeah.
Felt so bad.
Yeah, the sound creepy crawly.
Or that too. Yeah, that too.
Yeah, physics is real. Everyone's got to obey it.
Yeah. Well. Yeah, unless if anybody else has anything left to note, I think we'll go ahead and close out for this interview. So, yeah, thanks for tuning in to this interview, everybody. Thanks to Aren for showing up and talking with us about the twins. It was great to hear about the design of the robots, recap of the match, and all the other topics we got to during this thing. And yep, thanks to Zaza as usual for coming to ask questions. And I'll see you all next time for the next interview.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Absolutely.